Hey ladies and gentlemen, Javier here with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel in which we apply the principles of philosophy, mysticism, and spirituality to rapid lifestyle transformation. And today I just wanted to make a short video, ladies and gentlemen, on a topic that is very interesting and it's not gone into, I believe, enough by a lot of the law of attraction and law of assumption teachers. And that is the great Boris Berezovsky, who was a great Russian billionaire and a knower and practitioner of our philosophy and our material, said in his great book, How to Earn a Fortune. I'd recommend all of you read this book. It's got great gems about practicing and implementing the philosophy that we talk about on this channel. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, and we'll get the exact quote, but he said that the person who actually has his desire manifest on the physical always prepares beforehand to receive that. And he said that he builds sheds for yet unborn cattle. Which means that the person who is manifesting and knows these laws and knows that whatever he desires exists the moment that he desires it, and it will manifest into the physical by inexorable law, he prepares the space for that in the physical. And of course, this is assuming that you can, and this is not always possible, and it's not always necessary, but it is a way to basically help you align with the reception of your desire. And what do I mean by that? One of the great manifestation teachers gave a story about a lady who worked at his institute. And this was back during the 80s, I believe 70s or 80s. It was back during the day when they had these huge tape recorders. At that time, they couldn't afford a tape recorder. But the lady was taking some of this material and she was implementing it. So she went to the store and she looked at one of these huge mixers or tape recorders. And she said, "This is the tape recorder that we're going to receive. But of course, I'm going to receive it for free." So what she did is she went to her office and she cleared off a table. And she made sure that everyone knew, do not place anything upon this table. This table is going to be solely for that tape recorder. And lo and behold, a few days later, a man came carrying a big box. And he said, "Hello, we're from the company next door. We have this old tape recorder that we haven't been using, and we thought you might be able to put it in good use." And he placed it on top of that table. And it was exactly the same model and look of the tape recorder that the lady had seen in the window. And there's a great lesson for this, ladies and gentlemen. I remember in an early video a few months ago that we did, I talked about this in the form of habits, or in the context of habits. And what we do in our journaling and what we do in our imagining and contemplation is we become the person that we want, and then we ask ourselves, what would that person, who is that thing that I want, who is the man or woman that I want to be, what kind of daily schedule does he or she have? What are the daily practices of that person? And then what you do is you start right away in implementing what you can of those daily practices. Of course, there are going to be many things that you're going to have to implement in your imagination. And that's where mental rehearsal comes in. Because everything at the end of the day is imaginal. There is nothing that's quote-unquote physical, because there's no spiritual and there's no physical. It's all one. But when you're able to practice something in the perceived physical, you have your hands more in the clay, and oftentimes it's easier to get on that vibration. And that's all this is, ladies and gentlemen. It's adjusting our vibration in order that we step more into that person that we already are, because we already are it. So getting prepared for that, preparing the ground, so to speak, for planting the seed. This is an agricultural concept, but it also works just as well for manifestation. We're going to be talking a lot about this when we go into more of our videos on rapid lifestyle transformation. So for example, let's say you want to manifest. Let's say one of your early manifesting experiments because we encourage people who have not done this much before, and even manifestors who have been manifesting but want to apply these tools in a new area, to test it. And when you test it, you will convince yourself. But always start out with something smaller than you think you can do. That way, it will increase your faith in the testing and in the proving. So let's say one of your manifestations is that you want $1,000. So you should have, what would you think that a person who received $1,000, what would he do with it? So maybe you want to have a bank account. Maybe you want to receive it in Bitcoin. So you'll want to purchase or you'll want to download a Bitcoin wallet. What you want to do is you want to prepare the ground as much as you can, as in the biblical terms talks about smooth the way, clear the path. And of course you will be guided to what steps you need to take to do that. Because not only does it increase your faith and allows for a smoother landing, so to speak, of your manifestation, it also gives you something to occupy your mind so that those doubts don't creep up. As Berezovsky talked about later on in that book, in another section of that book, that many billionaires and many people who were involved in great enterprises, so as to not let doubt take root in their mind, kept themselves busy with other things that had nothing to do with what they were doing business-wise. And in doing that, they were able to shift their focus and basically get out of their own ways, and then everything that they wanted was able to flow into their lifestyle. Well, this is another form of that, basically taking the form of what would happen after I achieved everything that I wanted. And Neville Goddard says this. He always says, do not focus on achieving your aim, so to speak. Focus on what would follow after you achieved that aim. Because you already are it. You already have it, and manifestation is simply about clearing your senses, so to speak, and lowering your defenses so that you're able to see in the time-space reality what already exists. Because as we know, what we're able to see right now is only 0.000001% of what actually exists. Our senses are very limited. So how silly would it be to simply depend upon our senses to confirm what we already have? But of course we want to see that with our senses, and we want to interact more with that. The only way to do that is by decreasing resistance. And one of the great tools to do that is by preparing the way. So I want you to journal about what would happen immediately following what you wanted. There was another great businessman who talked about, I never try to attain a sum of money, but what I do is I ask myself, what would I do with that sum of money? And then I already assign it to the things that I would spend it on, and then it comes. This is a form of already having your check doled out before you receive it. This is the way most people in this country work with their paychecks. That's why a lot of Americans have no savings. But use this in your favor. Say, okay, I want to manifest $10,000. Here are all the things I'm going to spend that money on. And actually vibrationally or imaginally spend that currency before you have it. And before you know it, that will appear in your experience. So remember, build the cow sheds now for those cattle that you're going to receive, and watch it come into your experience. This is another tool, another technique in the arsenal of tools that we're going to present to you on this channel. So stay tuned this week, because we have a lot of interesting videos coming out, more on the nitty-gritty of rapid lifestyle transformation, on homesteading, of the actual concrete steps that you can take flowing out of and in conjunction with your primary way of being, which is living on that other film roll, living in the faculty of your imagination, which is supreme. There's a book that I was perusing that was recommended by Neville. It's called the Zermatt Dialogues. It's basically a philosophical book where this was, I believe, about 100 years ago. It was a dialogue that took place in the mountains of Switzerland, and it was conducted by very intellectual men, professors of physics and philosophy, along with a traveler who was mostly self-taught, and he was committed to these principles of imagination. And it basically explains how the whole world is completely imaginal, and there nothing else exists besides your imagination. Nothing else exists besides consciousness, and then of course that consciousness sets up the observer and the observed. So for those of you who are philosophically inclined, if you want a great read and you want to increase your faith in this methodology, I would recommend reading the Zermatt Dialogues, and you can download it for free in PDF form from the Internet Archive. But we do have a lot of great videos coming out this week. Every single day I'm committed to releasing material of great value. So if you find our material of value, please subscribe and like to this channel. And also, if you want to have coaching where I guide you step by step through these processes and also help you work on anything that you'd like to work on, you can email me, and I will put that email in the description. So until very soon, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great holiday, and we'll see. This is Javier with great love and appreciation. I'll see you very soon.